Wish you could fish more, anywhere, anytime. RODgeeks, a St. Croix rods partner, has developed a 42-inch one-piece travel rod designed and built with the same technology found in St. Croix rods. This travel rod is offered as a kit that comes with the RG42 rod, spinning reel, fishing line, pliers, and tackle tray. All in a case with space for your wallet, phone, and fishing license. Just grab and go. Perfect to keep in your pickup, car, or RV. This shorty performs much like a longer rod, but is compact enough for easy storage and for on-the-go use. Make this the summer you fish more. RODgeeks.com. Guidefitter.com. Guidefitter, bridging you to the outdoors while providing a quality platform for guides and outfitters for you to select from. Guidefitter is the best place to get discounts on gear if you're an outdoor professional. As a game warden, I'm a member of the Outdoor Government Program, which has over 80 quality brands to get discounts from. It's free to join. Yes, free to join. And all you need to do is prove that you're an active outdoor government employee. There are all kinds of products available. Apparel, boots, archery equipment, optics, backpacks, cameras, watches, ammo, anything, you name it. And while you're there, check out the articles, information, and stories that you'll be inspired from. So before you head out to work in the outdoors or start your next outdoor adventure, check out Guidefitter.com and get discounts on your everyday or every so often outdoor equipment. This is Game Warden Wayne Saunders for Guidefitter. Wireless partners building the FirstNet cellular network for AT&T in New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont to ensure first responders can always communicate in emergency situations, so you know help is on the way when you need it. Wireless Partners is partnering for success with communities, local and state government, local business, and visitors. Wireless Partners building cellular networks for you. This podcast is brought to you by Maine Operation Game Thief. Please join me, Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and other Game Wardens on our adventures, protecting wildlife, saving lives, and having fun, all while serving the public and the natural resources of our planet. Listen to the tales and experiences of those who work in the outdoors while being entertained with stories about encounters with poachers, wildlife investigation, murder investigation, near-death experiences, search and rescue missions, wildlife interactions from game wardens around the country and around the world. When I retired, I realized I couldn't let go of that legacy, but rather wanted to share the passion, the commitment, and the stories of those men and women that call themselves game wardens. This is Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and this is Warden's Watch. Episode 16, Conservation Officer Todd Szewczyk, Sergeant. And if you get an opportunity to look at this podcast cover, please do. Note Todd's spelling of his last name. I've called him Alphabet. I've called him a lot of other things too. But if you look at look at his name, it's just got about every letter in the alphabet in it. So it's pretty interesting. Also, Todd's picture is one of a lot of the trophies that he, so to speak, got through his career, the cases that he made on display with him. I always tell people, we don't hunt like we do hunt, but we spend a lot of time hunting poachers. Those are our trophies, and that's kind of nice to see that. Those represent cases that Todd has made in his career, some very recent, some a little older, but those are the trophies that Todd took from the poachers, and they were no longer their trophies, and they became mementos of a lot of hard work, a lot of investigation, which is pretty neat to see, and that's what I want you to see when you look at that picture, is Todd's representing the cases he's made, the poachers he's caught. He's pretty proud of that, and most game wardens are proud of the poachers that they catch. When you look at it, taking a moment, please look at the cover. It's pretty interesting, and think of that. Think of Todd doing his work diligently and catching poachers and taking what they prize or away from them. So something else happening in the conservation officer law world. I want to make sure listeners get introduced to officers all around the country, all around the world. And you may not have an opportunity to know these guys personally or on that level, but I want to bring those to you. I want to, even if they're not on my show, I want to, if something happens, something mentionable, I want to mention it. I want you to become part of the conservation law world. So this is kind of sad in some ways, and because retirements are sad, they're I shouldn't say sad. They're exciting. They're sad. At least mine was. I'm not sure if it was for everybody. It's the end of a career that you love so much. And I always tell people I felt like I jumped off the cliff and I was waiting to hit. And podcasting really has helped me with not hitting. It's helped me go back into something I love very dearly, talk to those that I think the world of, that do the same work and have the same drive that I did. And I enjoy hearing their stories, and I enjoy getting them out to you so you can hear their stories too. Colonel Joel Wilkinson, the Maine Warden Service, has just retired. Joel came on about the same time I did. He was probably a little bit ahead of me. And we ran into each other as young game wardens, and we'd talk and everything. So we had a good relationship. And as he climbed through the ranks, he didn't forget the little guy, and he also remembered what his goals were. And he supported the Operation Game Thieves, especially of Maine. That was his job. But he also sponsored and helped and worked as much as he could with international wildlife crime stoppers because he saw the goals are the same. So if all of us work together, our goals are the same. So Joel was a leader in conservation law. So when you have leaders retire, it's and you see what they've done through their careers, it's kind of a sad thing, but there are qualified, highly motivated people to replace those. And I've got to remember that. It's maybe an end of an era, but it's a beginning of a new era as well. And that's exciting as well for somebody to come in there and hopefully fill those shoes and have the same desires. I always tried to train my subordinates, whether they were officers, my sergeant, to take my place. I think I did a good job. The sergeant that took my place, Sergeant Mark Ober, did an outstanding job. But I didn't select somebody like me. I selected somebody opposite of me. So we made a good team. I'm a talker. I'm a people person. I'm probably not as specific when it comes to paperwork. My sergeant was a guy that dotted all his I's and crossed all his T's, and he loved detail work. So that's the kind of guy that I promoted. The hardest decision I ever made as a lieutenant is tell the guy that was very similar to me, who I love very dearly and who's a very close friend, that I didn't select him as sergeant. That was a tough thing, but I wanted to balance myself and I wanted to balance the district. And I just knew that Mark brought things to the table that I didn't. The guy that I didn't promote was very much like me. And to have two guys that are heavy on one side in traits and characters and strengths, it's that teeter-totter, and you put it all on one, and it teets too much. We need to do that balance thing. And I've always strived to do that when I was a supervisor, and I've always tried to pass that along. That's what you want to do. You want to look for the balance. The things you don't like to do, find someone that likes them and that it's good at it. And then you have a very strong organization, whether it's small organization or big organization. If you can find those people to balance your organization, you're going to do very, very well. So thank you, Colonel Joel Wilkinson, for your time, your commitment to wildlife, law enforcement, on the officer when you started off as an officer right through to colonel. May you enjoy your retirement. And I know you like to tuna fish, and we had a podcast scheduled, and I plan on rescheduling with the former colonel of the Maine Warden Service. He's a tuna fisherman. I guess that tuna fisherman. So that's something that interests me to talk about. He's also an accomplished hunter, and he's a very genuine person. So I'm looking forward to that interview, and I hope we can schedule that and get that out. I've done several interviews with colonels that you haven't heard yet that are going to be airing, and I like to start with the top. It makes the guys underneath them feel comfortable about doing interviews, and it shows the colonels what I'm doing. I want to make sure they're comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm trying to promote wildlife law enforcement nationwide, worldwide, and using the officers and their stories to do it, as well as the colonels and their stories to do it. So I have a lot of appreciation for the top. And if you don't have the support of the top, you don't really have the support of anything else. So I've enjoyed those. You're going to hear some of these colonels. Colonel Eddie Henderson, Georgia, retired. I did an interview with him. Just an outstanding leader as well. And he's been involved in a lot of things Colonel Wilkinson was involved in. And they were those leaders that took us to the next step. And I'm looking for those leaders that are coming up through those ranks to maintain that or move us to the next step. That's a challenge. That's a challenge if you're in those shoes. So now we got to get on with Todd Szewczyk. And like I said, look at his name. It doesn't even look like Szewczyk, but I'll stick with Szewczyk. It's easier to say than what I think it is. So Todd has had a stellar career. He's had some interesting stories, and I think you're going to find this podcast is very similar to the Colonel and I because we have that relationship. We did a lot of things together, did a lot of things apart that Todd has some great stories about. And you're going to keep hearing me reference to the director's story. I think I'm going to tell that story in my precursor to the next podcast. So 17, look for that because I'm going to do that precursor story, I think, or maybe I'll do it in a bonus round. But regardless, Todd's got some great stories. You're going to really enjoy listening to Todd. And then we're going to have a little break, and I want you to hear Todd's family. I interviewed his kids. After we got done with our interview, I stopped, I went out, I was chatting with the kids. They were pretty entertaining, and I'm like, being a game warden is all about the family and the family support. So I said, hey, kids, why don't we go in? And we got Lindsay, Kyle, and Brian, and we did some interviews, and we talked to them. So we're going to have a little break. I'm going to talk a little more, and then you're going to get the family. So if you don't want to listen to Todd's kids, don't feel obligated. You have to. If you really want to know the inside story of these game wardens' lives, I encourage you to listen to the kids' stories, listen to their appreciation of their father, listen to their appreciation of his work. Kyle's one of my biggest fans. Todd says he's addicted to these podcasts. He's young, he's vibrant, he's smart. It's pretty an honor for me to have somebody like Kyle listening to this show because of the effect that the job had on his family. So I want you to hear that, and I like to throw that out every now and then because without the support of our families, we can't do this job because it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And if there's somebody not trying to live that lifestyle, it's a hard thing to do. Maybe that'll change through the ages, but right now it's very hard to change it from being a lifestyle. When you're at Walmart, you get asked questions. People call you up and ask you questions. When you're doing other things, they see you on the street, they're asking you questions. And if you don't embrace that, you're fighting it constantly. Now, I didn't really care for people coming to my house. My wife didn't care for that, so I tried to discourage that. People would show up to register bears at my doorstep and I wasn't there, and people she doesn't know are knocking on the door. She didn't really care for that, and I get that, so I tried to discourage that. But I wanted that relationship, and I needed that support from my family to continue on. And Todd had that in his career, and you're going to hear that from the kids. So without further ado, this is episode 16. It's been going fast. I have so much more already taped for you guys. The other thing is, this was my number 3 interview. So you might hear some quality issues with the equipment. I have upgraded my equipment, like I just keep upgrading, and my wife's ready to kill me because I keep upgrading. I just want to get the best product available out to you. I hire a producer. I have a Jay Scott, who is the Big Buck Registry podcaster, is my producer for my show. And I want to say thank you, Jay. You've done an outstanding job. And if you're interested, listen to the Big Buck Registry. It's a great show. You learn a lot about deer and deer hunting from some of the best in the world. So Jay's an awesome individual. He's helped me so much, and I appreciate that on this podcast because I want to bring a quality product. So I'm always upgrading my equipment. I'm hoping to get to the point where I don't have to upgrade anymore. I've got a good mixer. I've got some new headsets, new microphones. Just always upgrading so you, the listener, have a better experience because I don't want that bad quality. And I am learning like you wouldn't believe. I never thought I could learn so much so quick. And I've come so far, blows my mind to where I was at. And I have so much further to go. I can't do the stuff Jay does for me at this point. I want to learn it. I want to continue to learn. I got to learn the business side of this. I'm very poor at that. I've got some good sponsors. I got some great people supporting me. And that's what makes this podcast. And you know what? You make this podcast by listening to me and sharing that with your friends, saying, this guy, he tells you how it is. He tells you the backstory to the game wardens. Maybe they're all not on TV, but they all are heroes. And to hear those stories and those adventures is like living them. So share those with your friends, please. Like me on Facebook, like me on Instagram. Those are things that help support me in the long run so I can actually get, some of this equipment paid for, as my wife would like to see. So without further ado, you guys enjoy this. Last night I sat there and listened to it again, and I enjoyed it. I have to laugh because some of it I lived. This is, I think, we've had some near-death experience talks, but Todd goes through an accident he had, and had it been seconds later, it would have been a whole different story than 12 stitches. So stay tuned, listen up. Thank you. So today's show, I'm wicked happy to have somebody I came on the job with, and that's pretty cool because when you come on as a conservation officer, you have a former relationship with a lot of people, but the biggest relationship you form probably are with the guys that you came on with. You get a lot of history with them, and you get a lot of experience with them. Throughout your whole careers, you're bouncing stuff off each other, just like Todd Szewczyk and I did for our whole careers. We'd call each other, we'd talk to each other, bounce things off. So 1995, Todd.
Yes.
The year we got hired. That's pretty awesome.
May 12th.
May 12th. Yep. The day we don't forget either. And usually we call, except you forgot a few years, call and wish ourselves happy anniversary when we were working. We're both retired now. That's a pretty special time. And I'm going to let Todd talk to you about his history, where he came from. And we have kind of similar backgrounds, so it's kind of neat in that aspect. And then we can talk about starting off our trainee years, Todd. Why don't you give everybody a background on you?
So I actually grew up in Rochester, New York. I lived out there until I was 12, and 8th grade moved to Connecticut, Madison, Connecticut, right on the shoreline. So I had some good experiences with the saltwater there, and knew I wanted to be a game warden when I was pretty young. First, I wanted to be a vet. Then I heard, geez, there's a lot of school.
Tell my son that, please.
Yeah. And I said, I don't want to do that because I didn't really like school all too much. But then I heard about a game warden. My dad was a big hunter and fisherman, and we were always doing something. And I think probably when I was 6 or so, him and a couple of his buddies bought some land in the Finger Lakes for hunting. And we used to go down there and just explore, and find salamanders, fish, dead things, whatever, smash up trees, and just really enjoyed the outdoors. And I heard about this game warden guy and kind of watch out for the game warden at some point too. It would sound like, geez, that sounds like a pretty good job. When I moved to Connecticut, not a lot of my friends did that stuff in Connecticut. Some did in New York. So I kind of forged my own way, and I knew I wanted to go into that. And I looked at schools and ended up at the University of New Hampshire for wildlife management.
Did you have any interaction with game wardens prior to going to college?
Never saw one.
Wow.
No, I do remember just a biologist coming into one of my classrooms, and I 3rd or 4th grade maybe, with some animals. They had an official uniform on, but I know it wasn't a game warden.
Right.
And that was like, oh, that's awesome. And I don't remember really the first day I said I want to be a game warden, but it was when I was young, before I was 8. University of New Hampshire Wildlife Management, enjoyed that. And while I was there, we took a law enforcement class by Dave Swenson, who was a U.S. Fish and Wildlife retired special agent. Through that class...
They usually have really good stories, too, the special agents.
Yeah, he had a book that he had written.
Really? Nice.
That was part of his class, of course, that you rented. And it was short stories.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Pat Bosco taught a class?
It'd be too long.
It would be too long. Yeah, you'd have to take it 3 years in advance.
Yes. So he had a class at University of Massachusetts for the National Park Service to be a law enforcement park ranger. So I said, well, that's right up what I want to do to be a good stepping stone. So I went and took that, which was a 300-hour class, and it included firearms, and it qualified you to work as a law enforcement ranger with the Park Service.
And I did the same thing in North Carolina, so down in Cullowhee, North Carolina. So became a park ranger, law enforcement, some pretty awesome training when I was in North Carolina. I'm sure yours was similar in Massachusetts. There was some real law enforcement training that went on in Silva. I was quite impressed with the way their program went. So
yeah, and I hadn't been exposed to that stuff, and it taught everything that you wanted to do and be, and so it was a good first experience. And some of the people from that class I'm still friendly with and worked with later.
Did some stay in the Park Service?
Yes, I know of one that had a career with the Park Service, and then a couple went on to work from the Park Service to Fish and Wildlife Service.
Yeah.
And other states, Rhode Island.
I wish you went to North Carolina because I learned a lot about North Carolina in the same way. So
yeah.
it was a really, I got some great stories about going to Sylvan, North Carolina. So being a Yankee, that is. So
yeah.
I had these two girls we went out to lunch with one time, and it was me and two guys from Jersey. Yeah, and we went in this place. They had two things on the menu, Todd, and both of them had black-eyed peas. So, and the smoke hung about mid-level of the little, and as soon as I opened my mouth to talk, everybody stopped in the restaurant, and they all looked. And I was like, the guys from Jersey, you know.
Out.
Yeah, the guys from Jersey are like, what's going to happen now? But it was kind of cool. Everybody was friendly, and the food was awesome. And, yeah, I'll never forget that. But, yeah, so my Park Service training, I'm sure, was a little different than yours. But it was cool to experience a new culture, and especially being a Yankee in the South. So it was exciting. So, yeah, Massachusetts probably would have been a better choice for me.
Yeah. Yep. Would have been about the same time as well. I mean, I took that class, I think, in 89, maybe. Might have been 90.
Mine was 90.
Yeah.
Yeah. I graduated in 90, so I would have took it 90, 91. So, yeah. So it's about the same time.
So when I graduated from that class, that first summer, I didn't get a job for the Park Service. I worked for the state of Connecticut at Hammonasset State Park, which was right in the town that I lived in, and was a park aide, they called him, and kind of assisted the park rangers.
Did whatever they told you to do.
Right. Yeah, you weren't armed, but you were, I think we had pepper spray and a baton.
Really?
And worked mostly midnights because I was low man on the totem pole.
That sucks.
But the next year, went on to work for the National Park Service at Cape Cod National Seashore.
Nice.
And that was really where I got my law enforcement start, and worked there 2 seasons. The second season, I worked through the hunting season, which was a great experience.
I didn't even know they had hunting on Cape Cod on the national park.
Yeah, they stock pheasants out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know if they do that today?
They still do.
Excellent.
Yeah, they have a good deer herd out there, and I actually, when I was out there, I ended up shooting a deer.
Nice.
If anyone knows Pilgrim Pond, right behind that, when you come down from Truro.
And when I was at Assateague Island National Seashore, they had hunting season as well down for the Sitka deer, and they didn't have a whitetail season at the time. When we used to go up the island and shine, and the whitetail bucks that were there were enormous. The racks were enormous. The deer weren't. They weren't, New England deer, but right. They were enormous racks, and because they'd never been hunted. And it was pretty cool. Now they have a whitetail season down in Assateague, but very similar island experiences. So no Sitka deer on Cape Cod?
No.
Bit
of rabbit. Had the Portuguese guys that always came from New Bedford, Massachusetts, with 15 dogs running there.
To mix in with their gravy.
Yeah, running the rabbits. And
yeah.
Oh, there was always a rumor that they would cut the bird shot a little bit, so if they saw a deer, they could hit it with a slug, basically. Mm-hmm. And always thought about it, but never caught anyone doing that.
And so everybody knows, sometimes they would take a pocket knife and cut a hatch right after where the powder is, so the whole shell casing would come loose and act like a slug, basically.
So it'd be one giant piece.
Giant piece that would hit a large mammal like a deer and kill him.
Yeah.
I don't know if that ever... I never had a case that happened. Did you?
No. It was just a rumor to watch out for down there, and who knows if it ever happened. But.
I might have to try it now just to see if it works.
Yeah.
So
I worked for a gentleman, Gene Valley. He was I don't even remember what they called him, but he was the head ranger there, and real good guy, and treated all us. We were basically young 20-year-old law enforcement kids, and gave us a lot of leeway in what we did, and mentored us a bit. So I worked there that 2 seasons. Then I got hired as a police officer in Milford, New Hampshire. I went to the police academy with a couple of then-to-be New Hampshire game wardens, which made me jealous as hell.
Yeah, because that's what you wanted to be.
Right. And
Milford was kind of a stepping stone into that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I knew I didn't want to be a police officer for my whole career, and I hoped that didn't happen. And I was lucky enough to get on 2.5 years later with Fish and Game in New Hampshire as a conservation officer, and was really excited about it.
But the stuff you learned at Milford PD was probably priceless, huh?
Oh, yeah. All of the little things helped me along the way. The Park Service, being a police officer, all good stepping stones.
Building blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now Fishing Game didn't have to send me to the police academy, so I was a
that's
little
why
ahead.
I wound up going alone. Thanks a lot.
Right. Yeah. Well,
My academy experience.
You needed it.
Mating moose calls, Just so everybody knows, if a fishing game guy goes to New Hampshire Police Academy, usually they stand out for some reason, somehow. So I did mating moose calls all the way through my academy, thanks to you. And no one else was there to take it because I was the only fishing game guy. So that was my mother thought when I was graduating. They were booing me when they were all doing mating moose calls because that every time it was my turn, they'd say, "Saunders, sound off," and I'd have to come up with a mating moose call. So because I was the only fish cop there. Yeah. So thanks, Todd.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
So I do remember a couple of things from when we came on, like
just a couple.
Yes,
Okay.
They sent us up to Pittsburgh, obviously the most northern town in New Hampshire, to paint the camp that the department owned, and we started with another gentleman.
Sam Sprague.
Yes, Sam Sprague.
Yeah.
I was going to say Wayne Saunders.
Yeah. I was there too.
Yes. So we painted the camp half the day. We went out to
Remember
eat.
what color that camp was?
It was green, wasn't
No, it was
it?
eggshell blue.
No.
Remember the first coat we put on? It was all showing through. We were supposed to be done in like 3 days. I think we spent 3 days painting. It was crazy because it was eggshell blue and we couldn't get it would always show through. It was driving me nuts. I know that.
Well, I remember the lieutenant of the area went fishing to see how the camp was going to look. And we waited all day, and we still didn't change color. And next day he was all mad.
He was mad. Only Lieutenant Stoll would sit out there and watch it to see if he could change color because he wanted to make sure we were working and not sitting out having a bonfire and tilting them back or anything. So we had to work on the sides, though, not the front. So
I think that was Wayne's idea.
It probably was. Yep. So I'll take the heat on that.
So we went out to eat, and Sam wanted to get a picture of a moose for his kids. And he goes, "Can one of you guys drive?" And Wayne volunteered me right away. And I'm like, well,
did I really volunteer you?
Oh,
I
yeah,
said, Todd will do
definitely.
you?
Todd will do it.
Okay.
So I jump in the
I
car.
was in the back seat. I mean, we took Sam's cruiser.
Yeah, it was Blazer.
Blazer,
Yep.
Ford Blazer.
No, Chevy
Oh,
Blazer.
Are you sure it was a Chevy Blazer, not a
Yes.
Ford Bronco?
Yep.
Okay, Chevy. I'll give it to you, Chevy Blazer.
So we're driving. It wasn't even a mile from this restaurant. And all of a sudden, out of the woods comes this moose.
There it
Full
was.
speed.
I remember it.
I saw it coming. I'm like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? I tried everything to miss this moose. I moved off the shoulder. I slowed down. The thing was like tracking me. It was like a freaking
I
rocket.
can still see it as it
And I
slams
go,
into your side
Oh,
door,
right in the window.
as the eyeball sticks to the
Right,
window.
I could see the eyeball was right even with my face.
It was.
And when it hit, it didn't just hit and bounce off. It rolled off the side.
All the way down the
all
cruiser.
the way down the whole thing. Dented all the quarter panels.
You remember what I said after? I said to you, if you would have sped up, you would have missed it. And you lost it on me. You were like, what the heck?
So what's the moose do? It doesn't get knocked down or anything. Just goes up on the hill, sits there and starts chewing its cud, looking at me like, that was fun.
They're tough animals. As the whole side of your cruiser's all dented up. And we had to call Chief LaPointe.
Yeah. And then you got to report it to the lieutenant. And we hadn't even been on 2 weeks yet.
2 weeks. Glad you were driving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, that was a good call. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad I wasn't driving. I would have sped up and I would have missed the moose.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure. Backseat driver.
So back, there's nothing else before we get assigned, though, is there? No other interesting stories.
Not that I recall at this minute.
Just me and the academy doing mating moose calls still. So
yes,
but yeah, that was a cool thing, that we do. And I think they do it still. They did it a lot as we went through. Is send up trainees together to Pittsburgh to hang out, to kind of bond together. And I think that's what happened. I think we bonded. You, me, and Sam became pretty good friends, and that was kind of a good thing through our careers. So you and I finished ours. Sam, took a detour. So, but
just like we were always bouncing stuff off of each other and telling stories, and you do that with the guys in your area too. But
yeah,
I think we did that more
and it
than
became
some.
nice as we became older game wardens and could bounce stuff off because we had that experience and. Run scenarios by me. I tell you my opinions, and vice versa. I'd run scenarios by you. You'd give me your opinions, and certainly had a lot of weight in what I did because I respected your opinion. Because we came on together, we worked together, and we knew our strengths, our weaknesses, and yeah, it was a good relationship. So I hope that the guys that come on and they are able to build those bonds are, can bounce those things off, because I think it's really great. So, and I think a lot of trainees get sent to Pittsburgh to work on our camp just for that reason.
Sure.
So, and it's worked out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, our areas were completely different areas.
Very.
Up north in New Hampshire is a lot different than southern part. And,
No doubt.
They call my area alligator country because everyone's running around like a chicken with their head cut off. And,
Yeah.
a lot more people, but a lot of wildlife here too. And I can't sit still, so I was always happy with being down here. I got assigned to the Milford area where I had worked as a police officer, so I had connections already, which was
Nice.
very helpful. Mm-hmm. And it's right on the Massachusetts line, so I had the influx of Massachusetts hunters that would come in, and made for interesting cases and interesting interactions, because with that state boundary, they sometimes will come up and go, I'm only here for 2 hours. As long as I make it over the line, I'm safe.
Yeah.
Which wasn't always the case.
You were a very active game warden, I will say that. I've always been impressed with your caseload and what you pushed yourself to do. So, you had a highlight you can share with us?
Well, you asked me, like, hey, think of some good cases you have, and a lot go through your mind. And, of course, the ones that got away are always, like, right on the tip of your tongue, like, I missed that one. I should have had it. I did this wrong, or I needed to do that.
Because it burns. It sucks to let one get away. It will always burn. I remember the ones that I didn't make more than the ones I made. So
sometimes it comes back to haunt a guy, though. I recalled one where a gentleman, I believe, shot a deer in Massachusetts, and he brought it up and gutted it in New Hampshire. And I was sure of it. I went back to where he said he had killed it. No drag marks, no nothing. There was a gut pile right where the road comes, it was a farmer's field, and it went to the edge of the farmer's field, and that's where the gut pile was. No drag mark, no nothing. And he had an alibi. This gentleman gave him an alibi, and I couldn't disprove his alibi because it was 2 against my word.
Right.
And so I always remembered what happened. I remembered who the witness was. Mm-hmm. Well, several years later, the witness got arrested for growing some marijuana in his house, and so he was a felon, and I knew about it. So another couple of years later, I know he's a felon. He registers a deer. So in New Hampshire, people here know that you have to register your deer. You go to a registration station to check it in, and they ask you a series of questions on what you killed it with.
One of which is,
Yeah. So he killed it with a muzzleloader. So ironically, Massachusetts, which has much stricter gun laws than New Hampshire, you can hunt with a muzzleloader if you're a felon. New Hampshire, you cannot, because New Hampshire considers it a firearm.
Yep.
So I knew this was going on. I go, oh, this is beautiful. I know where he's living. He's living in New Hampshire. We're going to do a search warrant for this muzzleloader at his house. So I contacted the local police department, Brookline Police Department. They were happy about it. We got a bunch of guys together, got the search warrant signed for the muzzleloader in his house. We didn't know what we'd find there. We were certainly sure that we would find the muzzleloader. So when we went,
you gather how many people at the PD or whatever? You make a
there was
plan?
4 of us,
Yeah.
and myself.
Yep. So not a big search warrant. I mean, 4 people. That's significant, but it's not pulling out all the stops.
Yep.
So.
And we were familiar with him. Mm-hmm. So 2 of us went to the front door, and 2 watched the back of the house to make sure nothing happened coming out the back. So we knocked and announced, and no one came, and we saw a body go flying through the hallway in the back. We could see flashes of the person going as he went, and we had a ram, so we rammed the front door open because he didn't come to the door, and he goes flying out the back where we had another gentleman waiting, and he sees him with a big giant bag of a vegetative material, and he throws that,
otherwise known of marijuana.
Yes. And he throws that into like a little fridge, like he was going to hide it, and then he keeps running, and I believe they ended up spraying him with pepper spray.
Him.
Yeah, arrested him. So then we go in, we see the marijuana, and now because
you found more than just that bag he had.
No, he had the bag, so now we had to stop.
Okay.
Because now we have another reason to search
outside
further.
the scope of your search warrant.
So we detain him, search the house to make sure there's no other people in there. Mm-hmm. And then we get another search warrant.
So you go to the
to
judge
search for
to
drugs.
update the search
Yes.
warrant for drugs because since he just brought out a whole bunch more.
So during that search warrant, we find scales and $70,000+. And
Wow. He was a dealer.
Yep.
Wow.
So,
Now, did they have any expectation that he was a dealer, or was this a surprise?
well, no, it was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Because he did have that previous growing,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know I just know he got convicted of that case.
Right.
I don't know that he was dealing that or for personal
But they weren't
use.
expecting to find scales or $70,000 in cash.
No. And all that got forfeited because of the federal drug laws, which was
Yeah.
great.
They went back to the police
And-
department.
Yep. And
Too bad you couldn't get it for fishing game.
he was convicted.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So
what do?
it
You're
was-
running
it
out
was-
of the back door with a big bag of marijuana.
Yes,
And there's
yes.
two police officers there to meet you, you know?
Yeah. And
Wow.
yeah, he just looked at me when after he was, pepper sprayed, and he said, "You could have just come to the door. I would have given you the gun." And I said, "Well,
We would've never got the marijuana,
I didn't
though."
know if we were going to get the. I didn't know if we were going to get the gun.
Yeah,
so
we don't plan on what you do after the fact. We plan
Right.
on what you're doing. So,
Right, so,
always load for bear, and hopefully, I don't know how many search warrants I've knocked and said, "Hey, this is what we're looking for. Can you give it to us?" And sometimes they will, or they'll. I'm looking for this gun. Do you want me to rip through all the drawers? Do you want me to look for every place for this gun, or do you want to just give it to me?
Right.
And 99% of the time, they go get the gun and they bring it to you.
If he had come to the door,
Yeah,
I would have
Instead
said,
of running
"Hey,
with
we're
his
here
bag of
for this
marijuana.
gun," and we end up finding a .22 rifle there too, as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it would have been simple.
Yeah, it would have been simple, but hey, that's good. You got all the goods, and that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think actually after some years, I think that he was fine with everything and realized that he had screwed up. And I know he hasn't been in trouble since.
Nice.
So-
That's so you might have changed his course of life. That's pretty impressive.
Made quite a good picture though with all the stuff that we confiscated on the table.
I can't imagine the guy with a big bag of marijuana running out the back right to the police officers.
Yeah,
That's too funny. That never happened to me.
But it came back to haunt him of not cooperating the first time, being that witness. It was
Right.
like karma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. So was that early on in your career, about midway?
No, that was about midway.
Midway.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah. So fish and wildlife cases, and what I remember you as is the investigator, because you loved an investigation, and the other thing, you wouldn't let it go. 3 years out, looking at before the statute of limitations hit, you'd be pawing through your cases, which that just wasn't my forte. If I didn't get them in the first 48, they were probably pretty safe.
Well, what happens with time is people forget their lies. They make a good lie in the beginning, and lots of times it's BS, but you can't quite
Because nobody
get
lies.
that edge.
Nobody lies to the police.
Oh, yeah, right.
Nobody lies to game warden.
Nobody,
So
yeah.
That's
They
one thing
lie.
Northwoods law teaches everybody. Everybody lies to the game warden.
Having experience in both sides as a police officer, then as a conservation officer, no doubt about it, I got lied to more as a conservation officer than I did a police officer.
Really?
No question about it. Yeah. And,
I gotta
and
tell
it's
this
simple
quick
things.
story.
I mean, fishing.
I'm driving down the road, and out goes a beer can out the window. So I pull the guy over. I said, "You know why I'm pulling you over?" He goes, "No." I said, "You threw the beer can out the window." "No, I didn't throw a beer can out the window." I'm like, "No, I saw you throw the beer can out the window." "No, I didn't throw a beer can out the window." I'm like, "No, you didn't hear me. I saw you throw that beer can out the window." So I wrote him. I went back. I got the beer can, and he paid it. But I watched it happen, and he tells me he didn't do it. I'm like, it was just seconds ago. It kills me. So that's one of my lying stories.
Oh, and I've had simple ones, fishing with a license. I watched them do it.
Yeah.
It's simple. I watched them.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because this was a simple one. My father had bought me these binoculars that recorded.
Oh, I remember when you got
Recorded,
those. You were all
yes.
excited.
And they had a little display screen
Yeah.
on them, and they worked pretty well.
Yeah.
So I'm going out, and I'm hell-bent for leather to get a case with these things, and it's something simple. It was across the pond, and I'm going to record this. Had a little SD card, and I record it, and this is great. I go over, and I wasn't fishing. I go, "You were too. I watched you for." "Oh, no, wasn't me." I go, "Okay, well, let's watch it, because I got a video of it right here." And this was really before video cameras were getting really good too.
Yeah.
And we watched it, and he just sunk his head, and he got the ticket, and that was the end of that. He, of course, paid it, but
Yeah. It just kills me, the lies that, and then you get the guy that tells the truth and you give him a break because you don't hear it very often.
Yeah, right. But I had a night hunting case. It was kind of interesting, and it wasn't even my day on.
Yeah.
And my day off, I was heading in my caravan.
I remember this one.
Out to a hunting spot, and I'm, getting there maybe an hour before legal shooting hours, and it's a relatively rural road in one of my smaller towns in Mason, New Hampshire, and I see like flashes of light in the trees. I'm like, what's that? Maybe someone beat me by a hunting spot. I'm pissed that someone's going to be parking where I'm going to park, and they just pulled in right before me. Well, I make the crest of the hill, and there's a car coming towards me, and I don't see any other lights. I'm like, that was weird. Maybe he was just turning around. I don't know. And then it hit me. Oh, he's shining. And he goes by me. And I don't put on my brakes because I don't want to alert him. I just coast to a stop. And I kind of put it in gear so it wouldn't put on the brake lights. And then all of a sudden, he was probably 200 yards down the road. I see the spotlight come out one side of the car, and then it goes the other. And I'm like, he is freaking night hunting. So I let him go around the curve, and I whip it around. I head after him at Mach 3 because there's going to be just down the road.
In the caravan.
In the caravan.
Yep.
No blue lights.
Well,
of course. And I'm worried that he's going to get to the next intersection. I'm not going to know which way he goes. Mm-hmm. And I get to him right at the intersection, and I start flashing my high beams. I'm just winging it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm starting flashing my high beams at him, and he pulls over, and I pull right in front of him and cut him off like you would maybe with a cruiser.
Like you would with a cruiser.
Or if someone was running from you.
Here's this caravan cutting him off.
So I come out with my badge and my wallet.
No adrenaline, huh?
And I yell at him who I am and what I'm doing. And let me see your hands. And he goes, Todd, is that you? And I go, yeah. And I said his name. I know who he was. I'm like, what are you doing? And he doesn't have time to think about what's going on.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm just looking for big deer. I go, I bet you are.
Yeah.
And he's got his muzzle loader right there. It's muzzle loading season. Mm-hmm. And he's all ready to go. And I wasn't going to shoot anything. I'm like, well, if you saw a big one, you may have.
Right.
So I take the stuff. I'm like, hey, you're getting a ticket for night hunting, but obviously I don't have my tickets with me to write you anything and arrest you or whatever. So I took everything. And
you took his hunting license with you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his muzzle loader and the spotlight.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I'm off for a day, so I'm going to meet you at your house Monday morning or whatever day it was, 8 a.m. He goes, all right. He's had a day and a half to think about it. So when I get to his house, he's like, I wasn't looking for deer. I wasn't going to shoot deer. I was really worried about the horses in the area because they get loose a lot. And I wanted to make sure when I went to my hunting spot that there was no horses were going to come and bother me.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm like, it took you 2 days to think of that?
Think about
excuse?
Horses. Yeah,
yes.
That's definitely pretty bad.
Yes. So needless to say, he did plead not guilty originally, but ended up changing his plea and was found guilty of that. But it was kind of a funny day off and my big caravan stop.
Yeah, no, that was a good case, and because we're never off duty as game wardens. You're always working. Whether you like it or not. I mean, when I'm hunting, I'm working. I'm looking. I haven't encountered too many people in the field, but Eric Fluette and I, one day we were going hunting, and I said, Eric, I like to hunt where we got that case going on because we got an illegal bait. I said, I think there's another one in there. So we went up there and hunted, and we found a second illegal bait, and I killed an 8-point buck. It was really good. So not off the bait by you. It was quite a ways away. It was like 3/4 of a mile away. So, but I had Eric to help me drag it out, and also we were able to start another case, and he made that case the last day of the bow season. He worked that, and that's a story he can tell, but it's a really good story. So we're never off duty as game wardens. I always say this, and heard me say it. It's a lifestyle. You don't hang up your hat at home and go out. It's I could tell you a few cases I did on my days off, because if I didn't get done on my days off, they wouldn't have got done. Yeah,
it's more than a job to us. We care about it so much. You just you live it, and you take a lot of pride in it too. And
you got that first 48.
You care about a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
you were saying earlier about statute of limitation cases. It's 3 years for a lot of big game violations, and I recall one that started out by just cruising the internet. It was before Facebook really became popular.
Todd Szewczyk cruising the internet. I just can't see it.
Yeah. So, and I know that several of our guys are big Facebook guys, and this was pre-Facebook.
This was like, before Facebook.
So Bill Boudreau, you've got all your Facebook stuff from me. So I was just cruising a hunting chat, and a picture of a deer in velvet and a raccoon were at a bait site, and it was corn. And I knew it was before the baiting season because of
the velvet.
Yeah, and the leaves on the trees and so forth.
Yeah.
So it had a date of January. Well, I knew it wasn't January, and I knew that a lot of people are lazy when they put out their trail cameras,
right,
and they don't change the date.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing research, and it was a name, like a abbreviation for the person's name that turned out to be with a date, which turned out to be their year of birth was their post name.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and researched other posts he had, and he said he was from Nashua, which was a town nearby, and that he worked for a firearms company. So I started cross-referencing this with other things and with our deer registrations.
Yeah.
And it came up with 5 different people it could be.
Yeah.
So then I started doing research in just all those 5 names.
Mm-hmm.
I did Google searches on, and I narrowed it down to 2 people that lived in Nashua.
Nice.
And then what I do when I go out on any of the hunting seasons, I have my memo book, and I write down license plates.
Yeah.
So another post that this gentleman had was from 2 years previous, and it was about a doe that he'd shot in Zone K. And our New Hampshire people, again, know that our areas are broken up into zones.
The
It's
wildlife management unit areas all have letters.
Yep.
Starting from A in the north to M in the south. Is that the last one?
Yes.
Yep.
So he said he shot this deer in Zone K, so I cross-referenced those 2 names with deer that were registered that year, and there was no deer registered that year under either one of those names. That made me go back and look at the license plates that I've written. I kept my books.
Nice.
And I matched up the name with a license plate.
Wow.
So that picture that he had posted of a doe, I'm like, hey, that day that he posted it, that he said he shot it, isn't a day that he could shoot that doe because it was a buck-only area at that time. That was I had this illegal bait. Now I had this guy in this spot where he shot this deer on this day, but it's a doe that he can't shoot.
Another violation.
So opening day of that season, I went to where I saw the car. What do you know? Same car sitting there.
Creatures of habit.
Same car. So I just sit there. I hear a gunshot, and what comes out but him dragging a deer? Guess what deer he was dragging? The one from the illegal bait pile.
Oh.
That he had a picture of. Yes. That he had posted saying, we can't wait for hunting season.
Nice. Did he have that deer tagged?
It was.
It was.
It was. But it was over an illegal bait.
It was over an illegal bait that you had proof of prior to the season.
Right. So what happens is it wasn't my bait. Oh, it's not your bait. Well, it doesn't matter that it wasn't your bait. You're hunting over it.
Yeah.
Same tree stand. I matched up basically the photo with trees in the background and so forth. So it worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
And I knew other people that he hunted with, and I knew where they were hunting that same day. So I went to that spot, and one of the guys was hunting on an illegal bait there. So it snowballed into 3 cases.
3 cases,
yep,
all in one day.
Right. And that was the doe. He said, oh, I registered that doe because I showed him the picture of it. Mm-hmm. He goes, oh, I registered that in New Ipswich. So, of course, I go through the records, and nope. It wasn't registered anywhere there.
What do people think? You're not going to check?
Yeah. So I ended up meeting up with him again later and giving him more summonses for the doe that was taken out of season. And I believe that was 2 years and like 10 months from when the illegal act happened. So 2 years further, 2 months further.
2 months, it would have been done.
Yep. Wouldn't have been able to do anything with it.
That's what I always appreciated you. You went back and, if I didn't catch him in the first 48, I usually didn't catch him.
It makes it more difficult. But like I was saying, they forget the story. Right. So one that we did when I first came on with Jim Nealon, and he had covered my area, and he had a case where 3 deer came in at the same time in the same vehicle. And we gathered 5 wardens and went and interviewed all 5 people that were involved at the same time.
Wow.
2.5 years after this happened.
That's a feat just to get 5 game wardens together to do that.
Sunday night. Got him Sunday night, so we knew everyone would be home, so we didn't miss someone that would.
Yeah.
And
good idea.
Dave Eskelin was able to get one of the guys to say kind of what happened.
Father Dave.
And then we went back to.
He was a good interviewer, Dave Eskelin.
The Maine man who coughed it up, and it worked out really well. And it turned out that everyone's story was different because they couldn't remember.
They couldn't remember the lies they told you.
Yes, everyone was all over
Had
the
it been
place.
the truth always stays the
Right.
same.
Yeah, it's memory instead of...
And Father Dave, I kind of coined him that because he was a good interviewer and everybody seemed to like him and confide in him. And he got some pretty good confessions, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yep.
So just had
that
demeanor about him that people liked. So,
well, I know one of the things you like to tell is our snowmobile experience.
I was thinking about the director's story. That's my favorite.
We can tell that another time.
Okay. Yeah. I guess my favorite story. It's not really my favorite because you have to hear the introduction to my show. It says near death experiences, and that's a near-death experience, Todd, that you experienced, and I guess I experienced too, but it wasn't me near death, it was you. So
yeah, it could have easily ended that way, and I was lucky.
Within seconds or within,
Feet.
feet, you would be dead. I'll never forget that day because it's still fresh. It seems like I can pull it up in my mind and my memory because you branded my brain with it. We were working in Clarksville there, and this snowmobile, Todd comes up north to stay with me, and we got lots of snow. And
snowmobile only had 12 miles on it. It was brand new.
Oh, boy. Was that one of ours, or did you bring that up with you?
No, it was one of yours. I believe
so.
It was retired Lieutenant Stoll's.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great, just when you ruined the lieutenant's sled.
Yeah.
So, but, I had this spot over Clarksville I like to work, and it was a really good spot. So we tucked our sleds in to run some radar, and the first one was like 62, 63 that I got. And this day, it was a really cold and dry day, and we had snow dust. Snow dust, like, no one's ever snowmobiled, what happens is when you snowmobile, it kicks up all the light snow and everything, and it becomes blinding. And the more snowmobiles you have going through it, the more snow dust gets in the air, and the less visibility there is. So,
and it was early in the morning. It was cold.
It was very early. I thought 10ish. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And we had just set up. We hadn't been there very long. And, the first one comes along, 63 miles an hour. So I go out after him.
Well, I remember you said, I'll get this one, no problem. Just stay here.
Yeah.
I said, okay, you know what you're doing. And I didn't have a lot of experience on snow machine. We'd do some training, but I wasn't riding daily like you did.
Right.
Because down in the southern part, you didn't have a lot of wide trails. That trail was a logging road. It was 14 foot wide.
Yep, it was. And people could toot right down that road. It was nice and flat and fast. Got there in the morning, so cold, solid, just that snow dust. So when the first guy goes through, I don't think anything of it. I go out and tag him and, probably pull him over. That was out of sight, half mile down the trail.
Well, and now I'm just sitting there and I hear some machines coming. I have the radar. And basically at that time, some guys would make some things to put them in, but I just rested in my lap.
Yeah.
So here comes one. He comes around the corner, 63. I'm like, beautiful. I'm going to get one too.
Yep.
So I had time. I pulled. We were kind of hit back into the woods, maybe 3 or 4 feet. Mm-hmm. I pulled out so my machine was turn my blue lights on the edge of the trail, hoping that he'd see my blue lights. He'd pull right over. I wouldn't have to go after him.
Yep.
He buzzes right by. So I'm like, well, now I'm got to watch and see if anyone's coming.
Yep.
So I look both ways. And some people are like, yeah, sure you did. But I did. Mm-hmm. I looked both ways, and then I started pulling out, and then I looked back to make sure no more traffic was coming. And I made it out about halfway, and I got whaled by someone coming right behind the first guy at the same speed.
Yeah.
And hindsight, he had to be in that snow dust, like you said, and I couldn't see him. And he was tucked in right behind him. So he was going 63 as well, if not faster or just slightly slower. And he hit right where your foot goes underneath the cowl. And my foot couldn't have been there yet because it would have been gone. And I just remember not waking up. I didn't get knocked out, but I remember flying. And I just landed across the trail in the woods, probably 20 feet. And it's down probably 4 or 5 feet off the trail there. And I'm going, my leg hurts. I go, that's not good. I go, all right, anything else hurt? I had my eyes closed. I go, no, nothing else hurts. That's good. So then I'm reaching my arm down my leg to feel if it's straight. I go, okay, let's see if it's straight. I put my hand down there. Hey, the leg's straight. This is good.
You're doing the body check for yourself. This is crazy,
So I stand up and I'm looking around and I see someone on the trail walking. I'm like, you all right? He goes, yeah, well, except for my thumb. And his thumb is just kind of dangling there.
Bent like totally the opposite way, just hanging.
Because he saw me at the very last second and just put on the death grip, and he went flying over the front, and I went sideways.
Yeah.
And then he looks and he goes, "Oh no," because my machine and his machine are still tangled up, but my blue lights are still flashing.
Oh, and that's when he sees it.
Yeah. Then he knows, uh-oh.
I just hit the game warden.
So I come hobbling up the trail, and I'm like, check him out. I'm like, "You all right?" "Yeah, besides the thumb, I think I'm fine." And I make sure he's okay. And then I start checking myself out, and then I look down at my snowmobile pants. There's a big giant hole in it. And I look, and there's just blood coming out of it at a pretty steady rate. I'm like, that's not good.
Does this where I show up?
I sit down. No, you don't show up
Okay.
yet. The next snow machine that comes across the trail is the director of Fish and Game, Wayne Vetter. I'm like, are you kidding me? I just got in an accident, and here comes the director. He's the first guy on the scene. I just broke one of his machines. Oh, and I'm like, oh, great. He was great.
Yeah.
Kind of settled me down a little bit because now I'm realizing what
your
happened.
adrenaline's dumping,
Right.
and you're,
The next person on the scene is you.
Yeah.
And you come up and you start cackling, laughing your ass off.
All I can remember is as I'm going down the trail, I see this guy hopping in the trail. And I'm like, what the heck is that guy doing hopping in the trail? And as I get closer, it's you. You're hopping in the trail, holding your leg, hopping. And I'm like, what are you doing? And just as I do this, I look over and I see these mangled sleds. And I'm like, and I just start laughing. Because, I don't know, it's one of those stupid reactions you have in a critical incident because, you laugh or you cry.
Nice friend, huh?
And I just start laughing at you because, and you're like, and you get so mad. What are you laughing about? And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Laugh or cry, man? I'm like, and I get on the radio and then I see the director's there. I'm like, oh, crap, the director. How do you get the director there, huh, Todd?
Yeah.
Of all the places he could have been, he has to be minutes after you crashed in one of the state sleds.
So he gave me a ride out, and I got x-rayed and so forth. I got a bunch of stitches and so forth, but no broken bones. I drank enough milk in my life.
Yeah,
I guess.
you had 9 stitches, 10 stitches?
I think 12.
Yeah, right in
and
there.
it's basically a compression injury where the machine slapped together and squashed kind of from my ankle to my knee, and I couldn't walk for about 2 weeks. I mean, extremely lucky. If I had been
Near-death
a little
experience.
quicker out there, he would have rear-ended me.
Yeah.
Right up my back.
Yeah.
I could have got thrown from the machine and hit a tree with my
Could have lost
head.
a
Who
leg
knows?
there if it'd been, because he would have come right into you.
I'm a durable employee.
You were a very durable employee.
Yes.
And he pled not guilty to the ticket we issued him.
He did. He got ticketed for speeding, and he pled not guilty, and the judge found him guilty.
Yep. He had a trial with that.
Yep.
So, and state police investigated the accident. Did they issue the ticket?
No, we did.
Okay.
Yep. And he was from Maine, I believe, and he hadn't had a lot of experience on a machine. And my cut was actually from a piece of metal that came off his machine that was kind of on the cowl that punctured my leg.
Yep.
So that was
Near-death
really
experience.
lucky. Yeah. My wife was very sympathetic when I called her. I said, "Don't worry, I'm in the hospital. I'm fine. I'm just getting stitches." And she goes, "Okay, when are you going to be home?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of that's routine.
Oh.
But I did go on that night because that was an overtime detail. After I got out of the hospital, I went to the detail and I ran license plates because I was due
Out of
my
the cruiser where it was warm.
I was due my overtime money. I wasn't not going to get paid for coming up.
You came all the way up to visit me, making a little extra money, and get wrecked, and you ran plates in the cruiser. Yeah. That's now that I look back, it's one of my favorite Todd Szewczyk stories. But I got so many. So
There's some funny ones.
yeah. How about that? Didn't you roll the 4-wheeler with Doug?
I did. That was when I was a trainee with Doug Grelinski. He took me out on a trail that was really set up for 4-wheelers, and I had a 3-wheeler, and I probably rode one other time in my life on a 3-wheeler. He gave me a 2-second. This is how you do it.
Oh yeah, I've been to the Doug. This is how you do it school.
So
I understand.
We're going on a curved trail on a mountainside, basically, and the third tire, the front tire, is riding on the hump in the center between the two grooves for the 4-wheeler tires, and it's starting to slide off. I'm like, that's not going to be good. So I let off the gas, which I maybe shouldn't have or whatever, and the tire went down, and the machine started to roll. Well, I am staying on that machine. This is not, I'm going to save it. Well, it didn't quite work that way. I went down this 45-degree pitch as far as I'm concerned, rolled twice, and landed up against the machine with the machine on top of me. And I'm pretty sure Doug came and pulled it off. And there was one gentleman behind me, and he goes, I saw it happen, and I was reaching out. It was in slow motion, and I couldn't stop it. Man. I should have just let the machine go, but I ended up surviving that with twisted knee, I think. But I was all right.
A durable employee.
Yeah. I got a scar on my
elbow.
elbow.
A lot of help.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he had a chuckle just like you did when that happened.
Man. Can we tell the director's story?
No.
Okay,
but we could tell this one. This was also a training.
Favorite.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, someday you can tell it when I'm not around.
That's exactly what's going to happen. The next episode of Warden's Watch, I'm going to tell the director Todd Szewczyk story. So, and you won't be the one telling her. Just remember that.
Yep.
So I can have all the freedom I want.
See, all these little accidents add up to the one big one. So I have the little one, so I don't have the big one. So
that's good.
This was another training
totaling
one,
a snow machine, near-death experience. That's not a big accident? No. Okay, Todd.
This was one in Salem, and it was the beginning of ice fishing season. It was before New Year's, so it was between Christmas and New Year's, and there was about 8 inches of snow on the ice. And I didn't know the ponds, so I'm with a gentleman that no longer
Is this what
works
your
for
Otter
the
name?
Yes, I get the nickname Otter.
Oh, I like this story, too.
There's always two versions of the story, mine being the right one.
Of course.
So I see the pond. We checked a smaller pond earlier, and it was fine, where a gentleman was fishing, and he had 6 inches of ice. So the people were across this particular pond, Arlington Mill Pond in Salem, I believe. And I'm like, you sure it's safe to go across there? He goes, yeah, it's fine. So, all right. My FTO training officer says, go. It's fine.
6'2", 225?
Yeah. So I go tromping across, and, and 25 pounds of gear.
Yeah.
I'm about 30 yards from shore, and I take my rear foot off the ice, and I plunge through.
Loop.
And I don't know if I did this, but I always said if I broke the ice, I'd start kicking like you do off a diving board, not to get your head wet. You jump off and you just kick your legs, and you might stay up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I caught my arms on the ice, and I immediately pushed out and up. And his eyes must have been the size of saucers.
I bet they were.
And he's, get down. I'm like, well, that's a good idea. So I lay right down on the ice.
He'll be the first one to lose a trainee. That wouldn't have been good.
And I start crawling back to shore, and I get to shore. And by the time I get to the truck, everything's freezing up.
Mm-hmm.
I strip right down, and I'm bright red. So everything's soaked. And he goes, man, that would have been terrible to be the first guy to lose a trainee.
Yep, that would have for sure.
So at the end of the day, he goes, so Todd, what's the proper way to check the ice? I go out just a couple feet where it's only 2 or 3 feet deep, and chop a hole and figure out how deep it is. He goes, no, you send a trainee out in front of you. And he was always a jokester. So,
and hence the nickname he gave you was Otter, right?
Yeah, he said, I've never seen someone move so fast in my life. You came out of that water like an otter.
Slid right on the ice like an otter.
Yep.
No, Todd Szewczyk Otter. That's always stuck with you too, because I've always thought that kind of stuck with you through my career. I think of you as Otter.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You got any a final wrap up case? You want to tell the director's story?
No.
Okay.
We could go with this is my wife's favorite story, actually, and it's not a.
I should have your kids talk about this stuff too, because each one of them has their own favorite story.
So I'm on the Merrimack River in my boat, and there's. In the Merrimack, there's spots where you can go full speed, and then there's spots where there's rocks, and you got to really pick your way through. And this one day, I didn't go my typical route, and I wanted to check out an island on the other side. I'm like, I can still get through there, but I can't go with a motor. So I pulled the motor up and just had it as a rudder, so it was only in the water 2 or 3 inches, and I'm on the front paddling through and pushing off rocks. Well, that little 2 or 3 inch piece that was my rudder in the back didn't work too good, except for to catch a rock as I'm on the front of the boat. Stopped the boat dead. Well, it didn't stop me dead. I did a somersault right into the water.
Plunk.
Yeah, kerplunk. 4 foot of water.
So you could stand up at least.
I stood right up.
Yeah.
But when I got in the boat, I was missing my pager.
Boy, and we know if you lose any equipment, and headquarters is going to eat you alive.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I'm like, damn it, I got to find that pager. So I didn't have the equipment at that time to get it. So I got my back to my trailer, got my boat, went home. My wife's home. It was the summer. And I grabbed my snorkel and my mask in a bathing suit. And she's like, what are you doing? What are you grabbing that stuff for? And I just say, don't worry about it. And I take off. Well, she's pretty inquisitive when I get home. So I get back to the river, do the little snorkeling trip, and what do? I find the pager.
I don't know how you did that, because that's like a needle in a haystack type of situation.
Hey, and this, I dried it out, and by some miracle, the thing still worked.
Oh, my goodness. That is a miracle.
And I did win, I believe that year, what my district has is the Horse's Ass Award, and it's the attention getter of the year. So at the end of the year, we have a dinner, and everyone tells stories about what happened, and the wives of all the guys vote on who has the best story. So that was one of the years I did win.
That was the year you won.
Yeah.
And didn't you tell Boudreaux, and he was supposed to swear not to tell anybody, and then he told everybody?
No, that was Dave Walsh.
Oh, it was Dave Walsh.
Yes,
okay, Dave Walsh.
Yes,
you know?
yes,
yeah. I knew it was somebody that you told.
He said that he had just transferred, I believe, and he said it only counted when he was in the other district, and because he moved districts, he could tell the story. Making up the rules as he goes along.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
No, that's hilarious. So, yeah, well,
I got one more I got to tell.
Okay.
This is where the snowballing of cases, I love that. When you get one thing and it snowballs into two or three.
Yeah.
So I'm just checking hunters one day, checking a license, and this license had one drop of blood on it. I mean, not like a big drop of blood, it had a drop of blood.
Was it fresh?
No, it was dried.
It was dried.
So I'm like, why is there blood on here? Oh, and the guy he was not nervous until I asked him that. And then he started getting all nervous. And there was another guy in the car, and golden rule, separate your interviews. Don't let them hear what's going on, and separate them. So if they haven't talked about it, their stories are going to be terrible.
Yep.
And you see that on all these other police shows, not just game warden stuff, where
absolutely
the drug interdiction stuff. Yep. The stories never match.
No.
We're going to Cincinnati. Yep. No, we're going to Cleveland.
Exactly. They can't keep it straight.
So I look in the back of the truck they're in, and there's blood in the back of the truck. So where'd the blood come from? And the two stories didn't match. One was, oh, is this guy? Oh, is this guy?
Did you find deer hair too?
There probably was, I'm sure, but there was definitely blood there.
Yeah.
So I got the gentleman with the blood on the license. He confessed that he had shot a deer the weekend before, and he still wanted to hunt, so he called his buddy to register it. It wasn't the other guy in the car. So he coughed it up. I go, well, I'm going to go talk to that guy. So I go talk to that guy. He's not even a deer hunter. He's a duck hunter. He goes, he told me I'd never get caught for that, and people do it all the time. I know something that he did.
Uh-oh.
So he coughs up another thing that the guy with the blood on the license did.
Yeah.
And he was working a construction site down in Massachusetts and shot a deer with a rifle in September, which is well before their season.
Wow.
And had buried it at another guy's house.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was more than happy to take that information.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I contact the Massachusetts warden.
So he buried it at a house in Massachusetts, too?
No, the deer was buried, the brack, in New Hampshire.
Okay.
But so contact the Mass warden. I had a confession written under Miranda.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Wow.
It worked out great.
Perfect case.
Yes. So I believe he got whacked by Massachusetts down there for cases down there. So then the guy that buries the deer, it turns out to be the guy in the truck originally. So not the guy with the blood, the second guy in the truck when I first stopped them.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I ended up getting a case on him, too, for having the illegal deer, which he knew about, which he lied about when I had interviewed him the first time, that he knew nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was beautiful.
No, that's great.
So I got really 4 cases out of 1.
Yeah. And just from starting with a spot of blood.
Yeah. I mean,
and that all it takes is observation or something that just,
as game wardens, you got to be curious and you got to be inquisitive. And if you aren't, you're going to miss a lot.
Absolutely.
It doesn't hurt to ask the question.
No, absolutely. And based on the answer, you know which way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. You miss it?
I've been retired coming up to 2 years. And this past fall, I missed a bit of it, but not more than I didn't miss.
Yeah.
So I missed that initial chase, being in the know. The camaraderie, of course, is something you miss.
Yeah.
But I feel like I had a decent career and made a name for myself. I believe I was the longest warden that stayed in this patrol in history. That one may have been here longer, but he was a supervisor in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say by today's Operation Game Thief, we're at a show here in Milford, and you wanted me to count how many times people asked about you, and I got 3, and it wasn't a whole lot of people, so that says a lot. Actually, 2 of them had cases that you were involved with, that they were involved with, and so that was kind of neat to hear that. So, and I think you left a legacy, Todd. I think you made an imprint. So, yeah. So, do you have anything else before we wrap up? Because
I do. This was another. With all the hunters out there now with these trail cameras, this is towards the end of my career.
Oh, I remember. This is a great case.
So a gentleman registered a deer at a sporting goods store where they take pictures and everyone gets to see it on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good 45 minutes north of my area where this is. Well, and a lot of guys like to go look on the pictures and see the deer and go, wow, ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one particular person went and saw a picture and he goes, I have a picture of that deer on my trail camera and it's from a town that's 45 minutes south of that. And there's no question that is the same deer because it kind of had a
distinct rack.
It was an older deer. It was only a 9-pointer, but tines on it like 14 inches long.
Wow.
So it was,
nice.
And the 2 sides weren't quite symmetrical. So ironically, this gentleman that shot the deer was a logger and was logging down in my patrol.
Huh.
So I go to the log yard after I figured all this out. I'd gotten a call on it saying that he thought this deer was taken down in Milford, and the registration was with a rifle. And in my town of Milford that I covered, you can only shoot him with a shotgun. So I went to the log yard, and here he is in the skidder, and we start having a chat, and he's not very forthcoming at first. And I go, well,
he's evasive, huh?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Shocking. But it didn't take long with some of the evidence that I provided that we need to go take a walk. There's some people that aren't too happy with you because it's a deer that someone's been hunting down here, and I got a picture of it. And I go, you have a gun right here with you? And he's like, not today, but I have. And all right, I'll tell you the truth. This is probably after 15 minutes of back and forth of where he shot it and giving the whole story. And I always like to have them tell their lie or tell their story first, the whole thing.
Into something and then pick it apart.
So he ends up shooting it with a rifle in the town and registered up there. And he just said it was so big he couldn't resist. The moment got a hold of him. And I do believe that was the case, but he still had a rifle with him.
In a shotgun.
Yeah. In a skidder waiting, so who knows?
Yeah.
And
we have our opportunists, some guys aren't born poachers out there looking for it, but when opportunity arises, it's hard to say no to that big buck that just stepped out there, even though it's a shotgun town and all you have is a rifle. So that's, part of our enforcement was, I'd say half of it was opportunists. Just something came that they couldn't resist.
Right.
No, those are awesome stories, and really thanks for sharing with us. Yeah, wrapping up, I think you had an awesome career, and it was a pleasure doing my career the same time you did. Yeah, we have a lot of fun while we're doing it, and we all have stories very similar to Todd. Someday I'll tell that director's story when you're not here, because that is my favorite story. Thanks again. So that was episode 16, Todd Szewczyk, Sergeant Conservation Officer, District 4, who also traveled around the state doing the job of a state game warden. And the next up is his kids. We have Lindsay, his eldest, who was born when we were trainees. We have Kyle, and we have Brian. Those are kids that actually have lived the game warden life and have that experience. So if you want to tune out, I totally understand. If you guys are interested in what the family is all about and some of the backstory. And if you like it, let me know, because I want to bring things that you want to listen to. If this is something that you didn't care for, maybe I do it as a bonus round. Maybe I don't incorporate it into a podcast, so to speak. I always take input from the people out there listening. It's very important to me to try to bring you what you want to hear to. Jen Wolf from Michigan, I had several requests. I'm like, not several, but probably numerous requests to interview a female game warden. Jen filled those shoes for me. There will be other female game wardens coming. I am trying to integrate all kinds of things. We're going to have some search and rescue interviews that I think you're going to find interesting, because maybe I found them interesting. These interviews, to me, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat sometimes. But this was fun. When I got done Todd's interview, I went into the kitchen. The kids were talking and laughing and just reminiscing. And I'm like, let's get the microphones out. Let's plug them all in, and let's do a recording. And again, remember, this is my third recording. It's probably not the best quality you're going to hear, but I hope you find it entertaining and get some back insight into Todd and his family. So I'm doing a follow-up interview now with the Szewczyk children, Todd Szewczyk's children, that have experienced the game warden life. So firsthand, real. We have Lindsay, the eldest, right, Lindsay?
Oh, yeah.
And how old?
23.
You were pretty much born the whole time your dad was a game warden, because I remember when I was a trainee, you were born.
Oh, yeah. He was probably a year, maybe 2, when I was born into the fishing game.
And then we have Kyle, who is?
20.
20. So you get to experience quite a bit of the fishing game life.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then Brian, you came along.
I'm 15.
15. Little gap there, And you were a baby while this was all occurring.
Yep.
Yeah. But still remember here, there, and everything.
Sure.
For sure. What's your first memories, Lindsay, of your dad as a game warden?
Oh, there's been a ton of things. They're out of order at this point, but a big thing I remember is in the middle of the night, we had school the next day, but if there was a snowstorm, we were like, oh, the school's not calling to have a snow day. If the phone rang, that means Dad's being called out on a search. So we were like, oh, Dad, time to get up, like yelling from our bedrooms.
In the middle of the night you were doing that?
Yeah, like maybe 2, 3 in the morning every once in a while. We knew it was a search for him. He had to go search for someone either lost or hurt something.
Did you just roll over in bed, Kyle, and yell at him?
No, I remember that too. It's either a call from our grandmother or he's getting called out to Mount Monadnock.
Your grandmother calls in the middle of the night?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. That's stuff I just don't want to get into, isn't there?
No, definitely not.
And animals, I mean.
Dad, so many.
He brought everything home?
A decent amount. We've had lobsters, owls, rattlesnakes.
You didn't eat the lobsters, did you?
No.
It would be like a lobster that accidentally ended up at a supermarket that had eggs.
Yeah.
So you can't
egg-bearing
sell
lobsters.
Them. Yeah, so they bring them home, and I remember it was in a cooler, and be careful with it. It had the things on the claws, so it wouldn't pinch you. And I was super worried about it. I was probably 10 at the time, and he's like, pick it up slowly, and we'll take a picture. We have a picture somewhere actually in the living room of me holding the lobster, and you can see all the eggs in the underbelly.
You still have that picture?
Somewhere, yeah.
Oh, I'd love to dig that up.
Yeah. Lindsay was a little bit more brave with me with the animal.
She was handling snakes. She's like a snake girl.
Yeah. I wouldn't even go close to them at first. Now I would.
You don't mind snakes now?
Oh, no. When I was 5, I would stay far away from them.
Oh.
I'd be like, Kyle, it's okay.
I'm like
you can
50.
pet the
I want to
middle.
stay far away from them, too, Your dad bring any really big snakes home or anything?
Right, we had a red-tailed boa for a while.
And how big did that get?
Probably 5 feet.
5 or 6 feet, yeah.
5 or 6 feet. Wow. Hanging out in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, in a cage, but it got too big for the tank we had. So he like knew somebody who would take it. But he was like, well, I have too many snakes. So will you take another one? So we ended up with a boa that was probably around 2 feet long when we got it. And when we got rid of it in half.
Little snake.
Wow. I didn't know your dad liked snakes that much. So you ever bring any the timber rattlers that are native New Hampshire? Did you guys ever end up with those?
No, I don't think so. But I think he brought home some rattlesnakes that weren't allowed to be pets. And then while we were waiting for like a recreational group to take them, they would stay at our house and the cat would like play with it. Well, not play with it, outside the tank and
Just watch it.
yeah.
Watch it outside the tank.
Yeah.
He didn't know what he was watching, did he?
Yeah, we were in charge of like making sure the snake didn't get out, but we had stuff on top so it wasn't going to get out. But we were young enough to be like, we're in charge of this. So we got home from school.
And make sure the snake was still in the thing, and the
It's
cat was sitting there staring at the snake.
pretty cool when you go to school and you get to tell all your friends you have a rattlesnake
You got a
at your
rattlesnake
house.
in my house. Yeah, I bet you the kids thought you were the coolest kids. They had rattlesnakes at their house, and that was the truth too. That's scary. Oh man, did the kids ever give you a hard time at school?
Some kids. So throughout high school, you have those kids that they're raised sometimes not learning the rules, the correct way and ethic to do some stuff. A game warden's always in their hometown, and so you have those kids that keep running into your dad, and they find out that your dad's the game warden, giving him all the tickets that are costing them money. So then they give you a hard time, but never really did I feel like they're actually trying to give me a hard time because my dad was a game warden. They just knew.
Well, you're always taller than they were, weren't you?
Oh,
Kyle?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, no one can see this, but Kyle, how tall are you?
6'5".
6'5".
Yeah.
You think you're done growing?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I grew with my dad a long time ago.
Yeah, I was going to say. And Brian's coming up behind, too.
Yeah, I'm almost 6 feet, not though.
Almost 6 feet at 15.
And then I'm the oldest, and I'm 5'6", so I'm much shorter than all of
You're
them.
the runt.
Oh, yeah. And I'm the oldest, but I'm the
And
runt.
the oldest, so. You'd even make it up to your mother's height.
No.
Your mother's pretty tall, too.
She blames it on coffee.
That you drink coffee too early in your life?
Yeah, I'm the only
You
one in the household that does.
Stunted your growth with coffee. So, and I know your dad doesn't drink coffee; he drinks hot cocoa.
Yeah, hot cocoa. They call him Coco. So
I call him Coco too. I was like, you don't drink coffee, Todd? You know, that's kind of you're a game warden. You don't drink coffee? No, I drink cocoa. I'm like, I'm not even going to tell people that, but now I am.
Yeah, with those home calls at 2 a.m, he's like, "Oh, I need some hot cocoa to wake up."
Yeah, hot cocoa really wakes you up. So, any incidents that stand out in your mind over your childhood? And
There's a big one that my dad likes to talk about a lot. It was like one of his really revelating moments, I think, in his career. Towards the end of it, he went up to the top, I think of it was Monadnock, and some guy had a heart attack at the top of the mountain. They had to go up and rescue him, and on the way down they had, I think, an AED on him, and throughout the time coming down the mountain, they had to revive him 2, maybe 3 times the whole time. And you can see pictures at the end. He would show me and Kyle and Brian the pictures of the heart when he was having the cardiac arrest or when he got to the hospital, and after whether they had either a surgery or they fixed it somehow, and the heart flow afterwards, the cardiogram. And it's just crazy to see that. And sometimes people don't realize that Fish and Game does more than just give tickets and make sure people have their fishing licenses and patrol through the woods. They're really there to save people's lives. And it's really cool to like be able to tell my friends, like, hey, my dad will save people's lives. He saved this guy's life coming down from this mountain.
did he become even more popular when he got on TV?
Oh, yeah.
People would come up to me and ask if my dad was on that show. And I said,
Yeah.
He's a guy with the binoculars.
With the binoculars. Yeah. He's the real Warden's watch, you know.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at my logo, it's the game warden with the binoculars.
Oh,
and there's your dad, you know. Always watching. I think that's so true with all wardens. We're always watching and trying to figure things out and what's going on. And one of the things I always liked, I was, Brian, he always watches Brian's baseball games from afar. He'll sit up on some hill, and I'm not sure which baseball diamond it is, but I call him sometimes, and I'll be like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm watching Brian's game. And he has the binoculars on, and he's watching the game from afar because he's supposed to be working, but he can't stand it. So puts himself in a spot where he can watch the game and maybe watch something else too. But he's got a bird's eye view, and he get all fired up. And one time I called him, and Brian was up to bat, and he hit a base run. He gets all excited. He drops the phone. It sounds like he's hooting and hollering because he does hoot and holler a lot, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Especially when it comes to sports. So
he's got that whistle that it stands out from everyone.
Does he? He's that annoying parent in the grandstands, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
And he's yelling at the refs all the time, isn't he? Yeah. Ever get ejected from a game? Did he?
No. Me, maybe.
Me, you, huh?
Yeah.
I remember one instance, I think I was playing first base in high school, and I knew he was at work, and he usually comes to my game, so I was like, oh, I know he's not going to be here at this game, and all of a sudden, behind my ear, I'm like, I know that yell. I know someone's yelling specifically at me, and I turn around really quickly, and it's him, and I'm in his uniform and everything, and he just popped in for, like, just a few minutes just to, like, show his face. And that, like, as a kid, like, we know he's out a lot at Fish and Game. He's out doing everything that he does for Fish and Game, and it's really special that he, even if he's just passing by really quickly, he just makes his face known. He's just like, hey, I'm here really quickly, but I'm here to watch you guys. And that's really important to us, that even though he's super busy with Fish and Game, he still shows his face, and we see him all the time.
Do you guys ever feel like you're an extension of the game wardeness?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I've said that when your dad's a game warden, your whole family's a game warden, because part of the agency, because you know what he's going through every day. You see him get up in the green uniform and go out, and game wardens miss out on some stuff just because they're trying to protect wildlife and people's lives. Whether it's baseball games or basketball games, they need to be doing their job, and it's very important. But my dad definitely tried to make it work throughout our lives in our high schools, but it's definitely hard when you have so much responsibility at home, and it's such an important job to the New Hampshire that you have to fulfill.
Very well said.
One of the most important things I've learned about game wardens, though, is they're very good at knowing when you're lying. So when you
So
have
did he use those tactics on you guys?
Oh, very,
Definitely.
very well.
Definitely, huh?
Yeah.
We could never get by anything. Even I remember as a kid, like, I didn't brush my teeth one night, and he goes, "You brush your teeth?" And I'm like, and he's just like, "I know you're lying. I'm a fish and game officer." I know, I didn't brush my teeth.
And he caught you at a lie, Kyle?
Oh, he has many times before. And game wardens have connections all over, so
So he knew
if
where
he's
you
not
were
getting it
before
from
you
me,
did.
oh yeah, he's hearing it from 10 other people in the town.
Anything that stands out in your mind, like brushing your teeth? Probably skip that one.
Maybe some parties that
Yeah.
some officers knew about it, and it loops around in my dad some way or another.
Yes, I can see where that would get his attention.
And the
so.
last name's so odd. It's Szewczyk. It's
Szewczyk.
crazy spelling.
I
so
call him alphabet. How many names have Z's in them, huh?
two
How many
Zs
names have
Two
two
Zs.
Z's? Yeah.
and one vowel?
Oh my goodness! I just call you Dad alphabet. So yeah,
The
but
second
called-
you hear that,
I was called Chex Mix for a while in baseball.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Brian, you want to jump in here? I know you're the youngest, the quietest, the least experienced of.
No, not really.
No. You ever been to the Walmart with your dad and people stop him asking questions?
No. I mean, going back to like him being on TV, I have a few of my friends that come up to me, ask me like, "Oh, I saw your dad on TV last. Oh, was your dad on cool?"
Yeah.
Just different than like.
I'm sure it's something he never planned on doing. So
I don't think he wanted to plan on doing it either.
no,
don't
he
think
would have
that-
gone to Hollywood for that.
Yeah.
So, but certainly a pretty unique thing.
I feel like at his age, he's just getting to the point where he's starting to drive and everything. And when
You're talking about Brian, not your father, right?
Yes, Brian.
Okay.
And so when me and Kyle had a lot of interactions with our friends running into Dad, they had already had their licenses, so they were doing snowmobiling a lot. They could hunt on their own, and he's
Right.
just starting to get to that point in his life
Yeah.
where they might, and since Dad's retired now, that they might recognize the name, but not necessarily run into him.
Right. And I would agree because my son's 12 years old and, not a lot of interaction. As a matter of fact, he's never done a ride along with me or anything. So did you guys get an opportunity to jump in the cruiser with your dad and actually work with him a day or so?
I've been asked before, and I've always wanted to go help out and volunteer on Mount Monadnock, but I was always so busy with sports that I never got the opportunity.
Right.
And early on in my age, I had a passion to become a game warden or a police officer, just because looking up to my dad so much, it really put that in my mind that that's what I wanted to do. But as time went on, I just kind of drifted away from that, went down a different educational path.
Nothing wrong with that.
I was similar to that. When I first went into college, I was wildlife ecology, and I was like, I'm going to do just what my dad did. I'm like super outdoorsy, as Kyle said earlier. I'm really into the animals, and I love to find them. I have to always go and look under rocks for whatever I could. And I started going into it being, I want all these animals and everything, and a lot more to the job than the animals is the people's perspective. And since we were the kids, we got to handle a lot of the animal. We realized as much of the dealing with a lot of people. And when I got into the classes, I was like, dealing with the people might be not my forte. I like to deal with kids better. So I'm now going into education rather than the wildlife ecology law enforcement.
I still tell myself, I'm an engineering major now, I still tell myself if it doesn't work out or if I don't find it enjoying that,
You get something to fall back on.
there's always being a game warden to fall back on. And I think at doing that job, I'd have fun every day, and I am still passionate about it, but you never know where life will take you.
Absolutely. Brian, any ideas? 15 years old?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do, but I've always thought about doing something with animals. I like nature and all the animals he's brought home. Like, I've learned so much from it, but I'm not really sure. Hopefully something with animals, though.
That's pretty awesome to see that he's instilled all this stuff in you guys over the years and had an outstanding career of catching people and probably one of the best investigators I've ever known. He's relentless. So,
Great work ethic.
He could never let anything go.
no.
I know that he was telling a story at one point, and it was probably a couple-year-old story, and this one guy, something illegal with a cat he wasn't supposed to have. It was like a
was an
Savannah
exotic cat,
It was an
yes.
exotic cat, and this guy kind of got away with the genetics of the cat. And my dad was like, 5 years later, he was like, I'm still on you. I'm there to find any evidence, and he finally found some evidence, and the guy ended up having to relinquish the Savannah cat because it wasn't supposed to be domesticated.
Right. Yeah, I remember that case well. He just wouldn't let it go. He kept digging and digging and digging, and so that's what I always remember about your dad, keeping those files right till the last day of the statute of limitations.
And you would know when he closes a case because he would come home
Pumped.
big grin on his face and everything. He would tell us all about it.
Absolutely. That's the 10-point buck we put on the walls, the poachers and the bad guys we catch.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we still have several filing cabinets upstairs before they went to digital of just like papers. It's the yellow papers. They're everywhere. They're just filed and they're so organized, and they're just like several filing cabinets in the attic.
Yeah. No, he went and grabbed a couple folders to review things when I was talking. I'm like, I wish I could do that because I don't keep my files like that. So, but I think I have a better memory than he does too.
He needs those files.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you guys want to say in closing?
Oh, it's been an awesome opportunity to have him in Fish and Game because we're so involved in everything that he does. And you sometimes don't think of everyone around someone who is in Fish and Game. You just think of that one person, but it's everyone all together. As Kyle said earlier, it's the whole family dynamic.
Yeah.
And when he retired, it's kind of like we all took a breath and kind of retired with him, because now that you don't see him waking up in the green suit every day and missing games, now he can go to all Brian's games without even thinking about it.
And he does.
Yeah. Yeah, he does, and he yells. He's
Yes.
loud. And
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a shock when he retired, and it's kind of like, wow, he's done with it, and it doesn't really settle in for a while that he's still part of being a game warden forever, I think.
Yep.
But seeing him not wear the suit anymore or anything it took a while to get used to. And having him around a lot, it took a while to get used to that too.
He's definitely around all the time now. And
That's great.
It's great, but then sometimes you're like, okay, go do what you need to do.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Once a game warden, always a game warden.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Always thinking that, always trying to think of a case so you can give it to that next guy. And
I definitely think it stresses him out when he knows something's going on in the district or something, and he just has to say, he has to leave it to the other new game warden, the young guys.
That's tough to do.
You know when a season like deer season or muzzleloader season or shotgun season has come around, you know, because he's all antsy because he can't be out there getting everything ready and looking out for people and making sure licenses are there. You know when the season starts because he gets antsy about it.
That's too funny.
Well, it is pretty cool that he got to go out for the opening day for the first time in probably
ever
20 something years or ever. Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
That's very unique.
Yeah, he'd be out like every other day hunting, and he liked it, but Mom definitely didn't.
Yeah, the season would start and you wouldn't see him for like 4 or 5 days. And we're kind of used to that, but after him being retired for like a year or so, and then all of a sudden him being gone, you're like, where is he? Oh, it's hunting season started.
Still in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure he's always keeping an eye out for what's going on and what's going wrong.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and talk to you about your dad and your life as a game warden family.
Thank you.
Please join me, Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and other game wardens on our adventures, protecting wildlife, saving lives, and having fun, all while serving the public and the natural resources of our planet. Listen to the tales and experiences of those who work in the outdoors while being entertained with stories about encounters with poachers, wildlife investigation, murder investigation, near-death experiences, search and rescue missions, wildlife interactions from game wardens around the country and around the world. When I retired, I realized I couldn't let go of that legacy, but rather wanted to share the passion, the commitment, and the stories of those men and women that call themselves game wardens. This is Game Warden Wayne Saunders, and this is Warden's Watch.